From Transport Topics in Washington, D.C., this is RoadSigns.
Thank you for listening to RoadSigns, the podcast series from Transport Topics that explores the trends and technologies that are shaping the future of trucking. In this episode, we're going to take you inside the making of TT's 2025 Top 100 For-Hire Carriers list, which we just published on June 23rd. This annual ranking provides an updated look at North America's largest trucking companies based on annual revenue. But this isn't just a list of carriers. It also contains information on each company's equipment, operating divisions, current executives, and more. Beyond that, we delve into the trends and business conditions that define the industry for the past year. The updated rankings are available now online at ttnews.com. And if you haven't already done so, you can get exclusive access to the complete version of our Top 100 For-Hire Carriers report by subscribing to Transport Topics at ttn.ws/ttsubscribe. And now, to discuss this year's Top 100 list and our biggest takeaways from the project, I'm going to bring in my colleague, Mike Senatore, Features Coordinator at Transport Topics. Thanks for joining the conversation, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Seth. Happy to join.
So for any listeners out there who might not be familiar with our Top 100 report, I think it would be helpful here to begin by explaining how we gather this data and how we assemble the list. Mike, could you just give us a quick overview here?
Sure. So the list is put together using a combination of data pulled from public records and SEC filings like annual reports, as well as data that we collect from carriers through a survey that we send out annually. And the survey collects financial and operating information, and it really allows us to paint a full picture of the largest motor carriers in North America. And in addition to that, we use industry reports and data compiled by SJ Consulting Group. And that really helps us to fill in the gaps in a lot of situations where data isn't as easily available.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these are a lot of companies that are privately held. You know, some of the biggest companies, of course, in trucking are publicly traded, but most of the industry is private. That means we're counting on these companies to share the information with us, and we really do appreciate all the participation. You know, it makes the final product that much better, the more participation we get. And of course, we do in cases where a company that we know belongs on the list, but we simply don't have data, will generate estimates working with SJ Consulting and other resources to capture the best information we can and produce the most comprehensive report that's possible given the available information.
In the face of uncertainty, some things remain steady. Like the Cummins 2027 X15, built on 25 plus years of experience and delivering up to 4% better fuel efficiency in a weight-neutral system. The X15 gives you the strength to move forward fearlessly and confidence that no matter the obstacle, you can and will rise above it. The 2027 X15, forever rising. Estimates based on preliminary testing. Individual results may vary.
So as I mentioned earlier, our Top 100 For-Hire Carriers project is much more than just a list of trucking companies. You know, it's an annual snapshot of the business and market conditions in the trucking industry. And for the current year, I mean, the overall theme we settled on for the cover story was navigating uncertainty. Certainly in the first half of this year, trucking and logistics companies have been facing a lack of clarity. It's been driven by fluctuating tariffs and shifting trade policies. Combined with a persistently soft freight market. You know, that story's been ongoing now for really 3 years. The industry's been struggling with the down market. So this latest edition of our Top 100 list is based on 2024 revenue. So the financial information does not reflect the financial impact of this year's trade policy shifts and tariffs and whatnot. But it does illustrate how the weak freight market conditions have continued to squeeze margins for transportation providers. So when you look at those financial results among the top 100, it is a mixed picture. You know, the list is about evenly divided between companies that did manage to grow their businesses at least slightly in 2024 and those that posted year-over-year revenue declines. And that, I think, clearly indicates that the industry is still struggling to climb out of this down market that's persisted for about 3 years. Right? And when you have mixed results compared to what was a down year or the prior year, it still shows that things have been slow and were slow in 2024. So among the companies that provided net income data, about 3/4 posted worst results in 2024 compared with the previous year, including some that saw pretty steep declines in profitability, as well as some that posted significant losses. So another tough year in 2024 for North American trucking companies by and large. So let's go ahead and dig into this just a little bit further here. Mike, when you take a look at the list and go back and review this project this year, what does the revenue and profit data say to you about the state of the trucking industry in 2024?
Well, last year was more of the same in a way for a lot of carriers, and we've continued to see the effects of the freight market weakness that's really been the case for a few years now. And last year, the market was still characterized by many of the same issues that we've been talking about for so long now. Low spot rates, overcapacity, and supply chain disruptions, of course. And in recent months, tariffs have kind of stolen headlines from general inflation that the U.S. in particular has been facing. But inflation, it continued to have a big impact on the freight market last year, driving down consumer demand. And all that being said, though, we can find some signs of, that sort of slow recovery on this year's list. In 2024, 23 of the top 50 companies on the list saw revenue fall year over year. And while that isn't all that encouraging on its own, it's actually a pretty big improvement over 2023, which saw 41 of the top 50 report a decline in their annual revenue. And that difference is even more pronounced in the top 10 of the list. Only 3 carriers saw revenues decline in 2024 within that top 10, and that's compared to 7 in the previous edition of the list. So while it's hard to call this year's results promising, there's certainly some improvement there.
Yeah, no, appreciate that perspective. And, I already gave my disclaimer that all the international trade negotiations and tariffs, that's not reflected in the data that we're presenting, because that's all happened in this calendar year. And the list, again, is based on 2024 full year data, most recent full year, of course. But because this has really been shaping the current year, I do want to spend some time on this. As I mentioned earlier, the really steep and frequently changing tariffs that we've seen under the second Trump administration, it really have injected a heavy dose of uncertainty into the freight market, into the U.S. economy. It has been changing freight patterns, disrupting supply chains. Really, I think that the folks out there are waiting for clarity. They want to see the dust settle. Right? I mean, the big picture, of course, is we're setting higher taxes on imports, and the goal is to bolster domestic manufacturing and bring production back to the United States in the long run. But again, for the time being, this has just created an unclear outlook for businesses. And when you're a large business trying to make decisions, or even a not so large business, uncertainty often means that you're going to pause your major decisions while you're waiting for that dust to settle. And we have seen that this year. I think we'll have a better understanding of the financial impact on trucking companies as some of the publicly held fleets report the quarterly results soon and throughout the rest of this year. But in the meantime, Mike, I'd love to hear anything, thoughts you may have or perspective that you would add about the tariffs and the uncertainty surrounding them, and what it's meant for the trucking industry and the freight market.
Yeah, so carriers are in a really tricky situation, obviously, with these tariffs. I think the key thing that you mentioned is the frequently changing aspect of it. We all know that the impact that the tariffs will have and have had on supply chains and international trade is huge. So businesses are really looking to get out ahead of those effects, but the kind of scattered manner in which they've been announced has made the situation, even more challenging to navigate. And markets have been really reactionary to the Trump administration's updates on tariffs. And it's really affected a wide variety of goods, as well as consumer demand. It's been fluctuating, as even the mere mention of a possible tariff in the future for a specific commodity it can inspire a rush by consumers to stock up on it. So that causes that fluctuation in demand. And as you said, the actual long-term effect of the tariffs, that really remains to be seen. But the volatility that we're seeing which has been caused by the manner that they've been announced and implemented, it's placing stress on the already weak freight market.
Yeah, I think that the industry at large certainly just wants to know, what does this new landscape look like? And right now, it's still a moving target. It's still unclear exactly where tariffs will be set and what the trade policies will be. Once that's clear, I think that we can see some companies move forward with their planning and adjust accordingly. But it's hard to adjust when you don't know quite yet what you're adjusting to. And our cover story in this report gets into that a good bit. It's very hard to plan when you simply don't know what to expect. So I think flexibility, adaptability will be very important. It's been a trying few years for motor carriers for sure. And this is the latest challenge to overcome. We've kind of set the table here. We've talked about the operating conditions, the market conditions, but now I think it's time to go ahead and dive into this year's rankings, right? I mean, that's the headline. How do these companies stack up? How have the rankings changed year over year? So when we take a glance at the top of the list, mostly unchanged, right? With the top 7 companies are each have the same rank as a year ago. Big names at the top, of course, parcel delivery giants UPS and FedEx are once again number 1 and 2 by a wide margin. Then you get to trucking and intermodal provider J.B. Hunt at number 3. Canada-based trucking conglomerate TFI is at 4, and LTL carrier XPO at 5. Next up is dedicated carrier Ryder System, the dedicated operations of Ryder, also a very large equipment leasing provider. Followed by Knight Swift, the industry's largest truckload carrier. The first big change in the rankings we see is Richmond-based LTL carrier Estes Express moves up 3 spots this year to number 8. The company grew its revenue to more than $5.8 billion. So there's a company that's increased its size and scope during the past year and did move up the list a good ways.
In the face of uncertainty, some things remain steady, like the Cummins 2027 X15, built on 25 plus years of experience and delivering up to 4% better fuel efficiency in a weight-neutral system. The X15 gives you the strength to move forward fearlessly and confidence that no matter the obstacle, you can and will rise above it. The 2027 X15, forever rising. Estimates based on preliminary testing. Individual results may vary.
Mike, as we get a little bit further into the list and as you review the top 100 that we've just now refreshed, what are some of the companies and ranking changes that stand out to you?
Well, as you mentioned, Estes made the most prominent jump on the list. It had a year-over-year revenue increase of 15.5%, and the company grew in multiple ways last year. It expanded its equipment fleet, and notably, it expanded its terminal network through acquisitions that they made in the auctioning off of the facilities of Yellow. Some other changes that stood out to me were some of the other large carriers that also managed to grow their revenues last year. TFI, as you mentioned, at number 4, they saw a revenue increase by 11.6%, and Ryder grew by 15%. Number 17 on the list, Saia Inc., and number 23, Universal Logistics, both grew revenue by more than 11% in 2024 and moved up the rankings as a result. So seeing those companies that even in this sort of mixed year were able to see strong growth in their revenues, those really stood out to me. And looking a little bit further down the list, number 65, Mesilla Valley Transportation, it had the highest percentage increase in annual revenue. It jumped 43% in 2024 and moved up 8 spots on the list. And Estes's increase, as we mentioned, 15.5%. That was the second highest across the top 100. So those are the companies that really stood out to me. The ones where you can see the sort of soft rebound that we've been talking about.
Yeah, certainly some growth stories and some some positive highlights in was overall a tough market and was overall a tough year.
Mm-hmm.
As a quick reminder, as we continue to talk about this list, I'd like to remind our listeners that you can view the full top 100 list online at ttnews.com. Go through the whole list and follow along. But of course, if you are not already a TT subscriber, I'd like to again invite you to keep up to date on these rankings and also just other general trucking industry news by becoming a subscriber. You can do so at ttn.ws/TT subscribe, or you can text TT subscribe to 571-622-0001. So another element of this updated list that stands out every year is looking at how mergers and acquisitions continue to alter the business landscape in trucking. We always see that every year. It's usually one of the biggest sources of change and on the list. And we see multiple examples of that again this year. I mentioned number 7, Knight Swift, already the industry's largest truckload carrier. Also extended the reach of its less than truckload business by acquiring the regional LTL operations of Los Angeles-based Dependable Highway Express back in July of 2024. So DHE's parent company, Dependable Supply Chain Services, had ranked number 79 on last year's top 100 list. So this is a top 100 level acquisition. Both companies were on our top 100 last year. Moving just a little bit lower on the list, you see number 10, Schneider, expanded its dedicated fleet operations through its purchase of Cowan Systems. And also that was last year, late last year. And Cowan was number 63 on our list a year ago. So another pretty big one. Whenever we see top 100 level companies come together, it's a pretty strong sign of consolidation. Further down the list, number 76, USA Truck. USA Truck is part of Germany-based transportation and logistics provider Schenker. Schenker was acquired by global logistics giant DSV in late April for about 14 billion euros. So this is a huge merger of global logistics giants, one of which is the parent of USA Truck. So that's something that we've been monitoring and we'll watch moving forward. Also, looking ahead, we see another very big change that is on the horizon. Late last year, number 2 on our list, FedEx, announced its plan to spin off its less than truckload division, FedEx Freight, as a standalone publicly traded company. That's, of course, a huge move for FedEx that's on the horizon, specifically for their LTL operations. And FedEx expects to complete that separation by mid-2026. So no changes. That's not reflected on our current top 100 list for 2025. But that is something that, depending on when that separation is completed, may come into play when we do this a year from now and update the list again. Mike, I'll turn to you next. When you review all the M&A activity we see on the list this year, what stood out to you?
Well, the highest profile move of those that you mentioned will be the spinoff of FedEx Freight, which is expected to remain as the industry leader in LTL. And the move has drawn optimism from stock analysts and freight market analysts alike. And its expected completion in June of next year, they say, will allow the company to better concentrate its efforts on the LTL market. And another major move that has had ripple effects and will have ripple effects on the trucking industry was UPS's sale of its freight brokerage arm, Coyote Logistics, to RXO. That was completed back in September of 2024. And UPS's CEO, Carol Tomei, she described the move as a strategic decision to allow greater focus on the company's core parcel delivery business. So that's a move that has more ramifications for our top 100 logistics companies list, but seeing as it's UPS, number 1 in for-hire carriers, it certainly will have effects here as well.
Yeah, and it in some ways runs counter to the overall consolidation trend that I think still holds, and we'll see likely more of that. But some of the very large industry players have looked at spinning out divisions or businesses that maybe can be stronger as a standalone pure play. So, of course, we're looking at FedEx doing that as they move into 2026. But we've seen other examples of that. XPO certainly comes into mind. XPO was a pretty comprehensive transportation and logistics company, at its largest, but saw the value in spinning off. You mentioned RXO. RXO was the freight brokerage division of XPO, became its own standalone freight brokerage. And same with the contract logistics side, which is now GXO. And now XPO is a pure play LTL carrier. So we do see some cases where very large companies are seeing more value in being more of a pure play or a more focused organization, and spinning out other divisions that can also be more focused and potentially more successful that way. That's another trend that we have seen in recent years. Another source of change, of course, is new companies that climb onto the list or return to the list after an absence. So I do like to note any new companies, any new names on the list every year that we do this. So I'll do that now. Joining the list at number 47 is Bridgeway Connects. Formerly was known as Transport Investments Inc. So the company provides heavy haul, flatbed, and specialized transportation and logistics services through a variety of brands and business units. Bridgeway is based near Pittsburgh, and it's a portfolio company of private equity firm Gemspring Capital. Another change this year, so our updated top 100 combines the operations of sister companies Transservice Logistics and Lilly Transportation. When we put them together, they rank number 65 on the list this year. Private equity firm ZS Fund, which is the majority owner of Transservice, acquired Lilly back in 2023. Both companies offer dedicated contract carriage and logistics services, and we felt it made most sense to rank them together on the list this year, which is more in line with how we treat other companies on the list as well. Returning to the list this year at number 85 is trucking and logistics provider Red Classic. It's a subsidiary of Charlotte-based bottling company Coca-Cola Consolidated, well-known company in that space. They are back on the list here with us at 85. Also joining the top 100, very quickly, I'll mention a few here, are number 90, United Vision Logistics, a flatbed and heavy haul carrier based in Lafayette, Louisiana. Number 92 this year is Cassens Transport, or a vehicle hauler based in Edwardsville, Illinois. And also at number 94, we have a newcomer, Gulf Winds International. They provide container drayage, transloading, and truckload transportation, and they're based out of Seabrook, Texas. So we have a good group there, Mike, of newcomers to the list. Really quickly, which ones are you watching most closely? And I imagine we'll continue to see more new names on the top 100 list in the coming years.
Yeah, so the addition of Bridgeway Connects caught my attention the most this year. Debuted fairly high on the list at number 47. The company is well diversified. They have over 20 brands offering specialty transportation, freight brokerage, or both. And the company has grown pretty significantly since its rebrand in late 2022. And it's figuring to continue that upward trajectory. As far as expectations for more newcomers on the list, I say I do expect to see, I do expect to continue seeing a solid rate of new companies in future editions. There's multiple factors that contribute to a company joining the list. Of course, revenue growth being the largest, but market volatility and economic conditions, they also play a major role. When a spot opens up on the list, that means that a company on last year's edition lost their place, and that could be due to a down year, or could be due to even carriers shutting their doors. We saw that with Jack Cooper, which ranked number 71 on last year's list, but shuttered its doors just a few months ago. So I am expecting to continue seeing that kind of, continue seeing new faces on this list.
Yeah. And sometimes it's as simple as M&A activity, right? Like you mentioned,
Right.
companies. If we have a merger of two top 100 companies, it creates a new spot on the list. And I'd say that the pace of change is somewhat gradual. If you compare one year to the next, you certainly see the differences. You certainly note that. But if you go back and look, say 5 years ago, it is amazing how much the names at the very top. Many of them are the same, but you see a lot of change, and you see some that have moved up, some that move down, and some that are either rebrand or are no longer in the industry.
Right.
So it really does capture that in this almost mini yearbook for the industry. Is sometimes how I view the project. At least among the largest players in our industry. One more time here, I'd like to just quickly mention, of course, that you can view this whole top 100 list online at ttnews.com. But there's a lot more than just the top 100 list. So in addition to that, we also publish several industry sector lists that are looking at the largest companies in specific segments of the trucking industry. So that includes truckload, LTL, refrigerated, flatbed, bulk, parcel couriers. So if you really want to see the largest companies in those segments of the industry, we have that as well, and we break it down in those categories. So, Mike, are there any big changes or maybe points of interest you'd like to discuss as you look over the sector list this year?
Well, it was definitely a mixed bag across industry segments last year. Some sectors like LTL, parcel delivery, air freight, and expedited services, they proved resilient in comparison to some of the others that we see. Two of our sector lists featured new carriers leading the pack this year. Our flatbed list saw Landstar System move ahead of Daseke Inc. They posted a declining revenue in their first year under new parent company TFI International. And in the household goods and commercial delivery sector, moving company Sirva took the top spot from Unigroup after the latter faced a sort of down year in 2024. The segments that were arguably hit the hardest by last year's challenges were truckload, intermodal and drayage, and refrigerated. On those lists, there wasn't much change in the rankings near the top. The pain was kind of felt almost across the board in terms of annual revenues and the declines that companies are seeing there.
Yeah. Certainly, we've covered a lot of ground here, but I did mention it at the top, and I want to mention again that we're always encouraging companies to participate in our top 100 for-hire carriers project. We send out an annual survey, and we certainly appreciate those that do share details about their operations, revenue, equipment count, things of that nature. And that participation makes this project better, and it makes it a better resource for the industry. And also, I think it's also an opportunity for recognition, right? I mean, if you're a company that belongs, even on the top 100 or one of our sector lists, and if you're that size and your revenue, this is purely a quantitative report. We want you on that list if you qualify. And that's something that you can, share with your customers, share with your partners, share with your drivers, your employees. We want to give you that recognition, the recognition that's due. And to do that, we encourage that participation in the survey. We do publish data on quite a few mid-sized companies in the sector rankings, right? So even if you feel like you're not a huge operation, you may still very well have a place somewhere in the publication, somewhere on one of these lists, even if you're not among the industry's very largest. So Mike, here, before we wrap up, you could just take a moment to tell our listeners how they can get involved and participate in next year's Top 100 For-Hire Carriers project, if they aren't doing so already.
Sure. So the best way to participate is by responding to the survey. This allows us to assess your company, assess your operations over the past year, and consider you for inclusion on our top 100 list, as well as any of the industry sector lists that may be applicable to your company. To receive the survey, you can reach out to tteditor@trucking.org, and we'll contact you to get you on our survey distribution list.
Well, I think that's a great stopping point. Mike, thank you again for taking some time out of your day to talk about our updated top 100 list. It's always a great day every year when we release this project. A lot of work goes into it, a lot of time. This is months in the making every year, and I know it's a valuable resource for the whole industry. So thank you for all the hard work that went into the project, and thanks for your conversation here.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
We hope you've enjoyed this in-depth look at Transport Topics' 2025 Top 100 For-Hire Carriers list. As a final reminder, you can view the entire Top 100 and sector lists online at ttnews.com. And of course, if you're a Transport Topics subscriber, you already have a hard copy packaged with the June 23rd issue of Transport Topics. If you've enjoyed this episode of Road Signs, please let others know. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If my questions have sparked questions of your own, share them with me and the Road Signs team. You can email us at share@ttnews.com. We'll read them and respond daily. And of course, we'll be back soon with a fresh episode of Road Signs. Until then, I'm Seth Clevenger. Thank you for listening.